As much as we love our fans, we really gotta ask y'all not to come by the shop so much. It's getting a little distracting. I mean, we would have greeted you, you didn't have to leave. Welcome back, race boat lifers. We've got some work to do on the fiberglass freedom machine here, so let's get going. To be honest, we're not sure if anybody's getting anything out of these videos or not. Maybe just look at me and think, what a fool. Would ever buy an old race boat, spend all our time busting their ass doing work? Well, to me, that's part of the enjoyment. But there is something I'm getting out of these videos, is I get to look over my work over and over and over again as I edit them. And I've come to the conclusion that there's some minor things I want to change. And I've been doing that along the way, so it's been a plus for me alone. And if any one person, just one person, gets a kick out of these things, it's all worth it. I mean, what the hell. But we have found a few things that we do want to change. There's a fuel line that is routed that we'll show you shortly that, well, we may want to route it a little differently. So yeah, we get a lot out of these videos ourselves. Even if it's just documenting what it is and what we do. Explaining to the wife how we spend hours and hours and hours in the garage, in the basement, in the boat. And so once again, we're first going to start off with plugging our battery chargers in. You may hear the hum of electricity here in a sec. Boom, there it goes. The theory is we want them to run or charge the batteries like somebody was driving the boat every day for, you know, maybe a half hour, hour or two, maybe whatever. We don't have our load tester yet, so we're not going to really know whether they're actually going to be able to take a load individually, just because of the fact that you know, when we start the boat, it's going to be on both batteries anyway, so one can be compensating for the other. But when we get our load tester, we'll be able to individually load test. And because when we're starting the boat, we're going to be more concerned about actually starting the boat. We could give a crap about the batteries at that point. But one of the things we really wanted to do right off the bat, so we ran our fuel line up, and we're happy about its placement. Everything's cool, except for when it comes down to here. We actually have it attached to this line here, which is actually the ballast fill line, meaning it runs off of pressure from the transom pickup. And after looking at it for a while, over and over again on film as we were editing, we came to the conclusion that even though this one's pretty hard, it would expand when it's under pressure. And being that we have the fuel line zip tied to it, there's going to be no place for it to go but to crush the fuel line if it does. So to make it more permanent install, we're going to take all this off first before we pressurize the system and get it full of fuel, and put it on this line here. That way we don't have to worry about it getting crimped because of the expansion of this fill holes. And we may actually get an added benefit of that, because yes, this is cool water that comes in here, but we rarely, I don't think we ever even used the ballast tank but once, just trying it out. So it doesn't really have a whole lot of water flowing through it. This, on the other hand, is actually straight off the transom and is always flowing cold water, no matter what. I mean, for whether it's the exhaust system or what have you, because it feeds the motor, and the motor is continuously using water, whether it's bypassing it or running it through the motor itself. So this will always be bay, ocean water temperature, or whatever we happen to be in. So, and it's solid. It doesn't expand. So we're going to attach the fuel line to it like it is on the rear motor, but there is a jump in the middle that we're a little concerned with, but we'll work on that when we get there. already. Now the fun begins. Here's something I hope somebody out there can help me with. I have these cooling pipes that run from the stern here, and they sit off from the stringer because, you know, all the stringer attachments and such. And I'm looking for, like, I don't know, a 1/4 inch, nothing above a 3/8, man. But the only thing I'm finding is like 1/2 inch plus of something that is 6 inches long, U-clamp that would go around here through this block and into the stringer, and on the other side it'd have to be 6 inches long. The only thing I'm finding is, like, I don't know, 1/2 inch plus. I mean, that's craziness. I mean, that's a lot, way beyond what I'm doing. I mean, a zip tie does it right now, and it's been doing it for years, but, you know, they're only plastic, and I'd really like to replace it with something steel. So if anybody has an idea where to find a 3/8, a 1/4 inch by like 6 inches, I believe it is total. Yeah, 6 inches probably from here, the base of the turn. You got any ideas? I'd be all ears, all ears. Of course, it has to be stainless or at least galvanized, you know, if it wants to live past a couple hours in this boat. So, all right. So the next thing is now I'm going to get this last zip tie off, and I'm going to have to shorten my fuel line here. But I really do think this is going to be a plus because of the cold water that constantly runs through here. I mean, I'm going to have chilled fuel basically. So once again, if nobody gets anything out of these videos, I did. Another pile of the casualties of war. Told you I should have invested in this company. So we're back where we started. Here we go round again. And we're back where we started, but now we actually have the fuel line up here on this cooled rail. So that'll actually be like a racer's coolant box, which is awesome. But we did have this gap between the two pipes on both sides because of the water separator here, so we put ourselves a nice little hanger in right here to don't allow any sag. We've got about, I don't know, 6 inches maybe on both sides between all the hangers, so we don't anticipate any issues with this. All right, lifers, if you've been around more than a couple episodes, you know we've been having a fuel pressure nightmare. It's time to start checking and see where we're at now. Whole new system, from gas tanks to carburetors. I wouldn't know what else to do if I have to do something. So we're gonna hit this key back here. Keys, it got ignition. There we go. Damn it. I don't know what just happened, but now I got friggin' gas flooding out of the front vanes. Alright, I need to pull the plug here and see how full it is. Well, here at Raceboat Life, we tell it like it is, and somehow we've kind of screwed up something. We got gas pouring out of the front vents. Not the vents, but the ventricles, or whatever you call them little round things down in there. And so we've reset our carburetor down a half turn, the front bowl, and we're going to wick ourselves out some gas here. We know these fuel pressure regulators come set from the factory, but we've been screwing with this one because we didn't know what we had for fuel pressure before, and we tried to set it at its lowest setting, just trying to see if we could get it to bump up. So we do need to reset this one. But first we have to stop the flood. And so far, I don't see any leakages anywhere, which there really isn't many connecting points that have any leakages, so that's all the plus. We didn't see this one last time. Maybe we can see it again this time. Hopefully we don't see it again this time. And even back there, from what we can see, it looks pretty dry, so I think we're all set there. Just gotta stop this Holley nightmare. Jeez. And if they ain't all perfect, it's not a perfect running carburetor. And I know a lot of people talk crap about Endelbrock, you know, they're too simple, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you know, they give up that 1%, that's guaranteed, as opposed to how much I could lose percentage-wise by not having a properly tuned Holley. I could give up a whole lot more than that 1%, trust me. And I'm sure I am, because as much as I've studied about Holleys online and everything else, I still feel like the more I learn, I feel like the less I know about them. But alright, let me try to give this fuel pump another try. Okay, finally we've got enough to where it's not flooding out our front bowls. I don't think it's dry, I just don't know what's going on. It seemed like I had them set before, but maybe these fuel pumps are different. So here we are where we were, and like I said, we were messing around with these fuel pressure regulators, so we expected this one to be off a little bit. Oh yeah, here we go, here we go. That looks like 6 psi to us. Woohoo! Let's reset the gauge. 6 psi. That's awesome. That's so freaking awesome. Totally awesome. I'm gonna lock this dog right down where it is. And that's how simple it is to adjust one of these guys. With an electric fuel pump and a resettable gauge. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome sauce. And I don't see anything flooding out of our side of our carburetor any longer. I'm going to make sure there's still gas in there. I did have to adjust the floats down another turn, which again, I don't know whether it was just the fuel pumps or what, but I had fuel pouring out of the front here, enough to where I stuffed it full of paper towels here to absorb it up. I don't want to thin out my oil, my new oil down there. So, but no, we don't have any leakage any longer. Pumps are running. They're really a lot quieter than the 4600s. I mean, when the motor's running, you won't even know they're actually running. And I'm hitting right on 6 pounds, right on the nose. That's excellent. I don't know if these dogs will go up to 15 pounds, because it doesn't seem like there's much of anything left to adjust. But I guess that's what you do these days. You overbuy and you'll get what you wanted or what you expected. Alright, I'm going to clean up and figure out what I'm going to do about measuring what's inside this bowl in a second here. So we pulled the rear plug out here. It's right there. I mean, it's a little right on top. We're going to pull it down about a half turn. But yeah, I don't understand what happened with the front one. How it just went crazy. With new fuel pumps and new pressures, we're going to check all our floats once again. Alright, we reset our rear bowl. Let's see what happens this time. Shake it a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Nice, just to the edge. Of course. We got our 6 psi going on here. Sure looks like it. I am starting to debate whether this motor or this actual carburetor may need a wedge. I mean, it does sit at a 12-degree angle in the boat. I don't know. Seems a little crazy. I think the fuel pump just hit a little bit of an air pocket because it just ran up a little bit, but it may not like just running in place either. What did they say they were meant to? We don't want to run ours in place too long here, but that's a beautiful number to see. That's all we want, nothing more. I know Holley say they can go up to 7. I don't even want to try it. 6 is the minimum. 6 it is. Okay, this one's good to go now. Finally. Glad we sat out here and adjusted it and made sure that we prepared for worse, because once again we had worse. But it could have been worse. So we're just counting our blessings and moving on to the rear motor. This here's the final connection for the front motor from point A to point B, or at least the connection that's actually under pressure. I don't see anything that's on the vacuum side either that's leaking, so we'll call this done for one motor. Now it's time to start all over again with this guy. Gotta get the air cleaner off, so that way we can see if we're going to flood our motor with gas again. I may just stuff it up with some paper towels just ahead of time, so and see if we don't avoid a flood. I left the throttles open on the other motor. I'm going to leave them open for an hour, so let it dry out. So the plan kind of goes like this. Turn our pumps on, give a quick look there, make sure nothing's squirting out the side of it. Our next connection is over here at the fuel filter. Make sure nothing's squirting out of it, and then if there's nothing leaking out of the bottom of the fuel pressure regulator, we're good to go. And all within about, I don't know, second, we've reached the carburetor to make sure that it's not dumping fuel down the throat of it. So that's the plan. Let's see if you're going to keep up. So we'll start you over here, and we're about to hit the key. Good. It's building up pressure. Nothing's coming out of the carburetor. And it looks like we're real close to 6 psi. Let's see here. Do a little adjustment while I actually got it in the viewfinder. Thinking that's where we want to be. I really do think the front motor needs a wedge. Everything's dry here. I do have to say how impressed I am on how quiet these 641s are. I mean, you're that close, and I'm twice as far away from you right now, and you can hear me fine. The old ones ran like a jackhammer on the side of the hull. So I gotta say, first off, I'm impressed about their quietness, and on top of that, they do reach 6 pounds. Like I said, there isn't a whole lot left on the nut adjustment here to get up to 15, even though these do go to 15. So I'm not sure if, I'm not going to guarantee anybody or swear to anybody that they would actually go to 15, but they go to the 6 that I need, so I'm good. Rear motor bowls seem to be set a little high also, so we're going to do a little wicking trick here and get rid of some gas after we've lowered it down another half turn. See where that gets us. It is kind of surprising the hell out of us, though, that we're because of the different fuel pressure, all of a sudden our fuel levels in all 4 bowls, or at least 3 so far, have been wrong. Makes you think. Alright, lifers, looks like we got it set. Front bowl was actually right. Huh, go figure. The 6 pounds that we now have for PSI makes total sense to us now why we have to readjust our fuel bowl levels. And it probably has something to do with the float, and more pressure being pushed on the needle will push down the other end of the float, because it's like a seesaw, and it'll push it down at 6 pounds. Well, it's probably pushing it down deeper into the fuel bowl fuel, so which allowed it to go deeper because of the higher pressure, and that allowed more gas into the bowl, which flooded it out. Again, I hope you all understand what I'm talking about, but people who have done this will totally understand that they had to reset their float poles and exactly why. After that explanation about the fuel level, if you're not confused, you haven't been paying attention. We got everything locked in. We can now get rid of our excess diaperage, and I think we're good for now. Still would like new carburetors. I mean, I hate talking crap about them. I really do, but it's just, they're just so complicated. And as I said, I've got an Engelbrock 800 on a 19. It's a set and forget. And when you're talking a big ass heavy boat, you know, I mean, the 1%, it really isn't going to make that big of a difference. I guess we can put our next X in the book and move on, because we need to start prepping these things up and getting them ready to get started. We don't know if anybody's getting out of anything. Alright, again. Yeah, there's always something. Like an airplane flying over just at the perfect time. You would think in some of these videos we were like living in the middle of like Andrews Air Force Base or something. It just happens to be the bay, and they think it's quieter if they fly up the bay instead of over people's houses. Problem is they use our point out here as a landmark, so yay. Alright, back to my moment in the sun here. Maybe I can get a segment or two out of this whole clip that's worth actually putting on film. Between the two lines, because the water separator, damn, we're gonna do it again. What the f***? Oh, come on, man, this is ridiculous. Oh, damn. Maybe I should turn the battery on. Dumbass.